Faye, Petro, Gargiulo and Dr. J. Frank Sanderson Jr. have dedicated their lives to Riverside, each serving in a variety of roles centered on one goal: providing remarkable care at home. Their passion for medical education, their commitment to healthcare advancements, and their abiding love for the Riverside teams who provide exceptional care every day are just a few reasons why they are our 2021 Citizens of the Year.
Recently, I had a family member who had a small stroke and was being cared for at Riverside. And while we were very worried, it was a real comfort to us to know that she was being taken care of at the premier center for strokes. And one of the main reasons that Riverside has that title is because of Faye and Frank. Faye being one of the primary movers and educators and administrators that allowed that program to come into place. And then Frank being one of the primary neuroradiologists and operators that gave that program its start.
It's our great privilege to recognize Faye and Frank, the power duo, but also the individual contributions of them both.
She really brought a unique aspect, background to Riverside because her background is not in healthcare. She admittedly said, "I don't know much about this," and really got in to learn it and learned it better than any of us know, starting with the oncology service line.
We were just beginning to talk at Riverside about product and service lines, and the first one we advertised for was a cancer service line manager. Faye Gargiulo showed up in my office with a huge presence. So we had a wonderful conversation. It's hard to call it an interview with Faye, but it was a wonderful conversation.
She was one of the people who interviewed me, and the interview was a conversation. What I remember that day was thinking, wow, I may have found a place where I would want to build my career and a vision that is aligned in so many ways.
She also had an interest in growing talent internally to get us to the point where we are now. Really, I think, points to her commitment to growth and growing people and the people that make Riverside strong today.
Probably nobody any more responsible than Faye for the growth and the quality of the medical group and the care that that group now delivers in our community.
She onboarded me in my very first couple months here at Riverside and part of the Riverside family. How focused she was that she knew that I knew how important it was to understand the culture of Riverside. That our mission of to care for others as we care for those we love was not just words on a tablet or on a piece of paper or at the bottom of a pamphlet. They were words that had to show action to them.
You know, Faye was instrumental in helping us come up with our mission statement.
I just think the world of her. When I opened the clinic, who did I get something from? Faye. Right away. Best of luck to you. Here's a little something that might help. And I think she does that a lot. We don't know it all the time, but it was so special to hear from her. And I guarantee you, that's just Faye.
Faye is a person that when you call on, even in retirement, I've asked her to do some things for the city and be on some committees, and she's jumped right in and just used her talents to aid our city tremendously.
The great thing about Faye is you could always tell when she was on the 10th floor because you could hear her laugh at any point on the 10th floor.
Because of her Southern background, we often ask her etiquette questions. and she's happy to share those with you. She's never been stumped on an etiquette question. She told me one time she can even fold fitted sheets, which is awesome.
Faye was an early adopter of the foundation and our role in philanthropy, and one of the first Riverside leaders, but also community members, to decide that gifting to the foundation was meaningful and impactful. And in fact, one of her first gifts was in memory of her parents, and she has these beautiful rocking chairs that sit outside of our cancer center. And even today, I know that Faye walks the Nolan Trail and often comes off the Nolan Trail and sits in those rocking chairs. And upon her retirement from Riverside, a few months after I arrived, we were really pleased to be able to work with Dr. Sanderson to fund a scholarship in Faye's name to continue education that's so important to her, but to also add a rocking chair with her name on it right next to her parents.
Because Faye always said, I'm like my daddy. You know, she's from the real South. I like my daddy. And my father always said, I'm a kingmaker, not a king. And I want to be like my daddy. I want to be the kingmaker. And she was. But because she worked in so many different areas, she ended up not only being a kingmaker, but she became one of the Queen of Hearts of Riverside.
Frank was a radiologist here for all the years I've been here, or for a lot of them, and was very well thought of as a radiologist. And then suddenly, in his 60s, he decides to go back and do a fellowship in interventional neuroradiology. This is at a time when many, many people are thinking about retirement. Not Frank.
One of my favorite stories about Dr. Sanderson is he went back to UVA for his fellowship, and he had to have a special consult with the human resources folks because at some point during his fellowship he was going to be on Medicare, and they weren't sure how that was going to coordinate with his benefits.
Is he shared a story with me about going back and getting further education at University of Virginia. Wahoo wah is all I'll say about that. And he shared with me how much that meant to him to be accepted into that program and to take his learning to a whole new level. And then he brought it back to Riverside and improved care that we could provide to our community. That is just an inspirational story.
Both fellowship and residency are at times very difficult, both academically and physically, where you have to put yourself under the authority of the faculty who are instructing you. And for somebody who has been doing their own work for a full career, that is a very humbling thing to do.
Dr. Sanderson started the interventional stroke treatments here. Those treatments were being done on a very selective basis throughout the country.
Some of the delicate work that he and his team did in people's brains with aneurysms, with strokes, science fiction work 20 years ago, people would have said, oh, that's not really possible to do, and here we are now, helping people survive strokes that either would have killed them or devastated their quality of life.
His techniques and the skills that he brings to the table help people to walk out of here that otherwise would be in a bed because he knows what to do immediately.
Over the years, I've had Dr. Sanderson's patients, who's now retired, follow with me. And I remember thinking about what a tremendous feat it was that the patient got this high-level treatment, which speaks to Dr. Sanderson's expertise. The patient that I'm thinking about was a 55-year-old man at the time, came in with a severe brain bleed. Dr. Sanderson found this aneurysm with an angiogram, and then this aneurysm was one of the most challenging aneurysms that you could have encountered. You normally think of big aneurysms, big things as being challenging, not realizing that it is much harder to find something that's small that caused you the big trouble and go after it and treat it safely and effectively so that it doesn't come back. Dr. Sanderson went ahead and treated this aneurysm with coils to fill the aneurysm with something so blood wouldn't get in there, but in order to do that he also had to lay a stent. Some of you may know that to put a stent and keep it open requires you to be on 2 blood thinners. This patient had come in with bleeding in his brain. To put somebody who's bleeding on 2 blood thinners seems counterintuitive, if not downright risky. But there are treatments that don't have another choice. I still follow him to this day. 7 years later, he's doing fine. And Dr. Sanderson took something that would not have been possible in our backyard and made it available to our patients.
This evening defines Riverside's family. You, our honorees, understand how to operationalize Riverside's focus on the continuum of care while maintaining, measuring, tweaking, and growing on our successes. You've maximized the how to integrate new technologies for learning and delivering the care without losing the art and the heart of caring. The heart in the hands, we used to call it, is what makes Riverside a family. My thanks to you. My humble gratitude.